So a few weeks ago, the Oscar noms dropped, and there have been some surprises for sure. Usually when the Oscars announces the movies that got nominated for the different awards, it sparks a lot of talks and conversations about which movie people think is best for that award and whether or not a movie even deserved a nomination in the first place. One of the category lineups that I find interesting in this year's Academy Awards is Best Animated Feature Film. And whilst there may be a surprise or two in that nominations list,
Best Animated Feature Film. A Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon.
we will be looking at two of those renowned animated films in today's video. Hello there, and welcome to Starry Blue. Today we will be taking a look at animated movies Soul and Wolfwalkers, and see how the themes they present and the styles they excel at make them such outstanding films. Released last December, Soul is director Pete Docter's latest film. You may remember him as the director of acclaimed Pixar movies Up and Inside Out, and just like Inside Out, Soul does not hesitate in delving into psychological, more hypothetical concepts and ideas, which we'll get into later. The movie follows the life and death of Joe Gardner, a pianist, middle school teacher, and jazz enthusiast from New York City with big dreams of performing in a jazz band.
1, 2, 3, 4, stay on the beat.
When an opportunity to perform in a local club does present itself to Joe, he auditions and succeeds in impressing the other performers, thus landing the gig later that same day. But just when things seem to be going right for Joe, he falls down a manhole and passes into the great beyond, the place souls go just before they die. Joe tries to escape to try to get his life back, but only ends up stumbling into the great before, the place that souls find themselves in before being born into Earth.
Is this heaven?
No.
Is it H-E double hockey sticks?
Hell, 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 hell.
Quiet, coyote! It's easy to get turned around. This isn't the great beyond. It's the great before.
There are these interestingly designed counselor/preschool teacher type characters called Jerrys, mistaken Joe for a soul mentor, a person with distinguished qualifications tasked with guiding new souls before they get born. There he gets matched with 22, a cynical, stubborn, and malevolent young soul who still hasn't found her spark, that one big requirement for souls to be born. Because Joe sees her as his ticket back to Earth, he tries to help 22 find her spark, but his efforts turn out in vain. Still determined, however, to fulfill his dream of playing in the band later that evening, Joe manages to return back to Earth through the help of Moonwind, a human in some sort of trance, but he accidentally brings 22 along. This means that 22 takes on his body, while Joe takes on the therapy cat's presence in his hospital room. But this trope was used effectively in elevating the movie's plot in just so many ways. It allows for Joe to see himself from a different perspective, giving us that amazing barbershop scene and that heartwarming scene with his mom. It gives 22 a chance to experience life fully for the first time, that of which was deprived from her back in the great before. It allows for both Joe and 22 to connect, to reflect, and to grow. But of course that means Joe still hasn't gotten what he wanted, to perform. Therefore he resolves to find Moonwind again. And while all that's happening, Terry, an accountant from the great beyond who notices something's off,
The count's off.
and who in my opinion has one of the best tracks or themes in the film's vibrant score, is searching for Joe to bring him back. Just before the seance ritual that Moonwind prepares for Joe to get his real body back, him and 22 get into a heated argument about whether or not what 22 has been experiencing in his body are important enough to be called her purposes in life, which leads into them falling out. Terry eventually apprehends them, brings them back to the great before, and surprised, 22 suddenly finds that she has gained the spark and is in fact ready to live on Earth. Still upset, however, over their past argument, 22 throws the spark badge at Joe, which he uses to escape back to Earth, regain his body, and make it just in a nick of time for his club performance. And Joe does well. Really well. But after the show, Joe feels like he's missing something. He's conflicted and moved, beginning to recall important and emotional moments in his life, and realizing that what seemed like trite and trivial things that 22 experienced in his body are valid enough reasons to live life. He decides to go back to the Great Before to return the badge to 22 so that she gets her chance to live life, even if it means he doesn't anymore. After the conflict is resolved, we see 22 leave for Earth, and Joe return back to the Great Beyond. But just before his soul truly dies, one of the Jerrys approaches him saying that they reconsidered and decided to give him another chance to live life. When asked what he'll do with his life, Joe ends the movie by saying he'll start living every minute of it. There's a whole lot more to look into this movie, with a lot to process, but before we get ahead of ourselves, a worthy challenger approaches. From the creators that made 2009's The Secret of Kells and 2014's Song of the Sea is Wolfwalkers, yet another endearing 2D animated film from underrated studio Cartoon Saloon. Set in 1600s Ireland, Wolfwalkers is a mystical fantasy movie that tells the story of Robin, a young girl who dreams to be like her father Bill Goodfellow, a wolf hunter tasked with setting traps in the kingdom's surrounding woods to curb the local population of predatory wolves. One day, Robin and her sidekick pet falcon named Merlin sneaks out of the kingdom to practice her crossbow. She spots a wolf but gets caught in a herd of sheep, causing her to lose her aim and misfire, shooting Merlin instead. She spots a mysterious young girl with orange hair snatched Merlin. Robin gives chase to the young girl and soon finds Merlin healed, just before she gets startled into a trap by a brown wolf. As she tries to free herself, Robin gets accidentally bitten by the wolf, who then runs away with Merlin. Robin follows the wolf and her pet falcon and soon finds herself in a cave in front of a waterfall deep within the forest. Inside the cave, she finds two still figures surrounded in a circle by wolves. The smaller figure turns out to also be the brown wolf she was following. She introduces herself as Mabe and says she's a wolfwalker, basically someone who's a human at day and a wolf by night. Her mom, the bigger figure in the cave, is a wolfwalker too. Mabe heals Robin's wound and the two get to know each other.
So what would it care we know about wolves? Why do you have so much stuff? Hey, stop! That's my gear for hunting. Oh, a hunter? Ha! A little girl like you. Well, you're a girl too. I'm no girl. I'm a wolfwalker.
Telling each other about their lives. Mabe explains that her mom's spirit is missing in her wolf form and still hasn't returned. Robin decides to work together to help Mabe find her mom and promises to come back the following day. She returns later to her home and tells her father about the day's occurrences. Robin's father Bill, however, dismisses her stories as mere fantasies and chastises her for disobeying his warnings and leaving the kingdom's walls. He reminds Robin that the Lord Protector, the movie's antagonist, sent for her to work at the castle's scullery as a maid, to Robin's protestation. Here, the movie does really well in delving into the character of Robin's father Bill Goodfellow and makes it that you at least understand where he's coming from. His hands are tied by his duties to the Lord Protector and by his promise to Robin's mom to protect Robin and keep her safe, making you understand his struggle and that in a place where him and his daughter feel alienated, unwelcomed, and scorned at, Bill just wants to keep his daughter safe. After a day of working hard at the scullery, Robin sleeps at night only to find herself transform into the body of a wolf, effectively becoming a wolfwalker herself. She escapes the kingdom to look for Mabe, who confirms that the bite wound that she healed for Robin made her a wolfwalker. As she gets accustomed to being a wolf at night, we are treated to the stunningly gorgeous sequence to the backdrop of a special version of Running with the Wolves by Aurora. The music of the scene adds so much to this already breathtaking sequence, which is surreal, somewhat calming, and is just a sight to behold. As the night nears its end, Robin leaves to return back to her sleeping body at the kingdom to resume her human form, but she gets sidetracked as she senses something at the castle. It turns out to be Mole, Mabe's missing mom in her wolf form, but before she could get there, she gets spotted by none other than her father. Chaos ensues, and while Robin does survive the encounter, tensions rise higher as the Lord Protector arranges for Maeve's mom to be publicly executed the next day in a town square, which cues the film's final act. Maeve's mom escapes execution through the help of Robin, which just angers the Lord Protector more. He prepares his men and decides to storm the forest himself to rid all wolves. Quick to get there, Robin warns the wolves of impending doom but is cornered by the Lord Protector. Just before he smites her, Bill turns into a wolf and saves her daughter as the Lord Protector dies falling down a pit of spikes. This confirms Bill's a Wolfwalker too, after being bitten by Mole as she escaped captivity earlier. Robin arrives back at the cave just in time to help save and revive Maeve's mom, who was shot by an arrow in the preceding turmoil. The movie ends with them all, Bill, Mole, Robin, and Maeve, together as a content family, heading west in search for a new home. The themes of both movies are foundational in their overall stories, and it's easy to see how they are part of what makes both films so special. Soul is a film about someone who has lived before and someone who hasn't.
Soul number 22. Oh, we're going to get into this now. Excuse me. 22 has been at the U Seminar for quite some time and has had such notable mentors as Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, and Mother Teresa.
I made her cry!
The creators of this movie pushed the seemingly basic premise to usher in a whole lot of big themes and ideas, both hypothetical and abstract. The movie deals with a lot of existential themes, with Joe ruminating about his perceived purpose for living and chasing this one dream that he thinks is supposed to change his life, make him feel fulfilled, and which he amounts to his self-worth. The movie argues through many introspective moments and scenes that there is more to living life than one singular event or achievement. Through inventive plot devices, situations, and characters like 22, the movie reminds the audience to learn to appreciate the little things in life. I think one part of the movie that encapsulates this thread well is the film's credit soundtrack, It's Alright, a beautiful song I recommend you all listen to after this video. The movie ends by rewarding Joe and in turn us, the audience, with a fresh outlook on life, reminding us to enjoy and live every minute of it. Simply put, even if it may be a movie primarily for a younger audience, Soul is not afraid to dabble with thought-provoking metaphysical themes of life, death, purpose, dreams, and leaves the audience with a meaningful message. On the other hand, Wolfwalkers preaches about the importance of making connections with families and friendships. It is these people that can help you find a place where you can be free, where you belong, and leave that toxic environment that makes you feel isolated and trampled on. Wolfwalkers crafts redemptions, character arcs, and character developments on that, using creative imagery to discuss those themes. Escapism and being true to yourself are other themes this movie talks about, while also having some commentary and underlying subtext about the effects of humans on deforestation.
You came into my woods. Your woods? They're our woods. Your wolves are attacking the woodcutters and the sheep. They should be staying closer to the town.
And religion/belief. Wolfwalkers uses all these to better advance its story, and while its plot may be a tad formulaic for others, the themes this movie presents only makes its story more meaningful. Personally, as much as I appreciated what Wolfwalkers brings to the table in terms of those ideas, I must admit that the messages and themes of Soul just hit harder in times like these. The philosophical lessons of learning to appreciate life, the value of life, and enjoying every minute of it seem to become all the more timely and relevant today. It's something that I think audiences and fans alike can really connect to, doubly so given current circumstances. Nonetheless, let us now look at the style of both movies. Each unique, both movies employ their respective animation styles to tell a story. Soul utilizes the latest developments in 3D Pixar animation to produce a movie that looks visually stunning. From the character designs to the different locations and sequences, the movie is pretty to watch. The approach to realism embraced by this movie pays off in that you could really have a sense of all the small details in the different scenes. The movie is the usual fare that you get with these Pixar films, so if you've seen Coco and The Incredibles 2, you'd understand what Soul would look like. Special praise has been granted to the lighting of Soul, which uses a program that has been continuously augmented and improved on since its first use in films like Toy Story, resulting in near hyper-realistic lighting. The look of this film is also complemented by the movie's stellar sound, with ambient music composed by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and the jazz soundtracks arranged by John Batiste. The music and score of the film help give it life. In an industry where animated films and studios seek to outdo one another in the pursuit of emulating real life as much as they can in their movies, Wolfwalkers and the style of animation it upholds proves that this movie has a lot of heart to give. The return to 2D animation, an art form that seems to be becoming a slight rarity in film nowadays, is a breath of fresh air, almost feeling like a revival. Through traditional animation techniques, but with some help of behind-the-scenes 3D technology, the animators of Wolfwalkers painstakingly hand-drew the film. The movie's creators opted for certain stylistic choices that help capture the mysticism and magic. Choices like how the colors bleed and the way some scenes are framed show that the creative process was both purposeful and inspired. The lines and shapes used in the forest scenes were more round and free-flowing, while the scenes in the kingdom were drawn more sharp and geometric, which speaks to the identities of those respective locations. In the parts where Robin and Maeve are in their wolf vision to show how wolves sense, the animators left the guidelines and line work present, adding visually to their primal instincts at those moments. The colors and tones are organic and natural, and the animation flows smoothly, resulting in an eye-catching spectacle that looks like a medieval book or tapestry come to life. It was clear that the people who worked on the film had a lot of love and passion for the story and its look. Wolfwalkers undeniably maximizes the medium of animation and takes pride in doing just that. In what a lot of people considered a slow year for animated films or just movies in general, Soul and Wolfwalkers deliver on our movie fixes for now. Basing off what I've seen online though, I think it is a shame that so few people watch Wolfwalkers, but that's probably because it's exclusively accessible on Apple TV+. I really suggest you watch both films because they really are good. I'm also aware that it is between these two films that are being debated on which one deserves the Oscar for Best Animated Film. There's a lot of buzz about it, and surprisingly, there seem to be a lot of people throwing their support behind Wolfwalkers and wanting them to win. I say surprisingly only because a whole lot more people watch Soul, so one would think their fanbase would be louder. If you ask me, I'm not sure which film would win the Oscars. The internet does seem to believe that Soul is the frontrunner, but who knows? A movie like Onwards might come from behind and pull an upset. Nonetheless, when all is said and done, I think we could all come together to appreciate these films for what they are, models of theme and style.